Hey, this is 4.4, Step 2, Disaster is in the Eye of the Beholder. Let's read this poem. I used to live in a single wide, tilted on blocks in a dusty trailer park, or as the sign said to trucks that rumbled by, a much more respectable mobile home court. Thin pressboard panels hid a million roachy lives. Turning on the lights sent them fleeing back into the walls. Tiny feet patterned like rain showers in retreat from the sun. I used to dream of a terrible storm, one to reach down with a dark, twisted arm and pick up those trailers, those non-mobile unhomes, crush them in a cloudy fist and scatter them like seeds across a plowed and fertile land. All right, so first thing to do, figure out what the heck it's literally about, right? And let's see, I want to go on a different screen here. Let's take a look at the setting. First of all, you want to take care of any words whose definitions might be ambiguous. Single wide, did you notice that there is a punctuation mark there, but I did not pause? It's an odd one. It's sort of an anomaly because single wide is used as an adjective. And so it's two separate words, single and wide, but when we put them together to describe something, then we put it's not being used as an adjective here, it's being used as a noun. But it comes from a descriptor, single wide trailer, but trailer is not included here. So single wide has been joined by a dash because it's two words that were used as a descriptor. So it's kind of an anomaly. I didn't pause because it's not a punctuation mark syntactically speaking. It's more like an apostrophe for, apostrophe S or something like that. All right, so getting beyond that, single wide is a trailer or mobile home. These are the small ones. They're usually 8 to 12 feet in width. So people live here and they're very small. Pressboard panels, these are manufactured wood that is cheaper, thinner, and not as long-lasting as wood. So those two words I thought you might want to have some definitions for. Let's take a look at the S in SCASI setting. Well, in stanza 1, we are in a dusty trailer park. This setting is introduced to the reader. The speaker used to live there. I used to live is the very first line. The single wide is tilted on blocks near a busy street that was named, the street's not named Mobile Home Park, but the trailer park is named Mobile Home Park. Stanza 2, the inside of the mobile home's walls are full of roaches, a million roachy lives, that hide when the light is turned on, sounding like rain showers when they scatter. Stanza 3 is a dream the speaker used to have while living in this trailer park. And the dream is of the trailer park itself being crushed and turned into seeds and planted in a plowed and fertile land somewhere else. So this the poem ends with a change in setting because of the dream where we have this imagined hand of the storm that has crushed the houses, scattering them like seeds on a plowed and fertile land. All right, so that's setting. What about character? What do we know about characters? I think we just have the one character, the speaker. And what do we know about her? Well, she doesn't like where she used to live, right? It was dusty, it was close to a road where trucks rumbled by, and it was populated with a million roachy lives inside the walls. She has hope for the future. We see that in the last stanza, but only at the expense of these non-mobile unhomes, as she calls them, 21, another clue to how she does not like them. Because they have to be destroyed in order for this hopeful future to exist, because they're crushed into a fist and scattered like seeds in a new land. All right, how about action? Well, she used to live in this place, and so that is the very first action. And she also used to dream. We see that at the end. We also have other things that are acting in the poem. We have trucks that rumbled by. We have a trailer that's tilted on blocks. We have roaches fleeing into the walls. When the light is turned on, and then we have the comparison of the feet to rain showers. We also have a lot of action in the third stanza in the dream, where this storm is personified. It reaches down with a dark, twisted arm and picks up those trailers and crushes them. Look at all the different active verbs we have here. And then finally scatters them like seeds. All right, how about the second essence, Cassie? Well, that is style. And for this half of the unit, we are only looking at two things, right? Form and structure. And for form, the questions we're asking are, how does the poem look visually on the page? How many stanzas are there, lines are there, any isolated? Are some lines longer than others? What patterns do you see? Any other unusual aspects of the poem's silhouette? So let's take a look at this. How many stanzas do we have? Well, we have 3, right? Stanzas are verse paragraphs. How do they look on the page? When you kind of gloss over your eyes, so you're not actually reading the text, but you're just looking at how it looks, you might notice that the stanzas seem to get a little bit bigger. When you look on closer inspection and count the lines, you'll see that in the first stanza we have 7 lines. In the second stanza we have 8. And in the third stanza we have 9. That's what we call a pattern, folks. When poets do something like that, increasing each stanza by 1 line, they're making a clear pattern. And through this formalist lens that we're taking when we do a guided literary analysis, those are the kinds of things we want to pick up. Also, we might notice that some lines are especially shorter than others, right? This last one in stanza 1, this last one in stanza 2. And then there's a contrast between those 2 ending stanza lines and the last line, which is always something good to notice too. When we look for patterns, we look for similarities and differences. So there's a contrast there where we have this much longer line. So what do we have? We have 3 words here. We have 3 here. And then we have 2, 4, 6. You know, sometimes these things will give us a place to go, especially if we find enough patterns working together. Sometimes they won't. All right, any other unusual aspects of the silhouette? Maybe that is all that we need for this. Well, let's move on to some claims that we could make. Remember, when we start analyzing poetry, we start with things that are not debatable. We want to make literal claims about interesting aspects of style. And so here are a couple you could use. The poem builds in momentum as the stanzas and lines lengthen to the climax of the destruction of the storm dream and the hopeful after image of the seeds being planted. So builds in momentum, that has to do with these numbers of lines in each stanza. So you would support this by saying in the first stanza there are 7 lines. The next stanza adds 1 line and totals 8. Finally, the third stanza has 9. And then you could take us through each stanza and explain how that momentum builds. Another claim that you could make is the 3-word sentence. at the end of stanza 1 visually isolates the words mobile home court, which emphasizes the irony of the name of the park, unnamed in line 21. What's the irony? Irony is when the opposite of what is expected happens. And so in this case, the name is ironic because we have the title Mobile Home Court, when really they are not mobile. They're the opposite of that. They're stuck here. They're non-mobile, the speaker tells us in line 21. And here she sort of unnames this name that's on the sign. They are unhomes. They are not her vision of what a home should be because of the problems therein, including the million Roche lives. All right, how about one last claim we could make about form? The three-word sentence in line 15 visually isolates the words from the sun, emphasizing the feeling of hiding from the sun. And this connects to the coming storm in stanza 3. So we're looking at from the sun. And the literal claim that we're making here is that the words are isolated. And we're supporting that by saying it's a three-word sentence, and we would need to probably go on to explain how it looks on the page. So there's our literal claim, and then we go on to make sort of a larger debatable claim when we say that it connects to the coming storm in stanza 3. So in the same way that the showers are coming in and making the sun hide, we have a storm that's being described in the dream of that last stanza. And so there's a connection there, and it emphasizes that coming storm or foreshadows the coming storm or prepares the reader for it in that final stanza. Okay, so those are just some examples of literal claims and then how they turn into kind of looking for an evaluation, right? How do these aspects affect thought and feeling? Here's some for structure. The poem begins with a description of the exterior setting of a trailer park in stanza 1, moves to the interior of a trailer, zooming into the roach-infested walls in stanza 2, and ends with a dream of the destruction of the park and an image of planting the destroyed trailers like seeds. And so we really kind of looked at this already when we looked at setting, right, and action. And so I didn't feel like I needed to explain all of that again. But this can be helpful looking just at like what's happening in each stanza and how does it connect. So it feels sort of like a summary, but the next step is to say what is the effect of this progression. And then you can make a claim, a larger debatable claim about the meaning. And that would be your interpretation. Okay, so how about this one? I used to begins lines 1 and 16. Creating a continuation of the memory into a dream for a hopeful future. That's a claim we could make about structure. We start with the debatable and then we move into more evaluative, interpretive. The sign that reads mobile home court is negated in line 21, non-mobile unhomes, paralleling the destruction of the place in the dream. All right, so these are places you can go. These are examples of what you can do. I have one genius tip for you. Oh no, I don't. What do I have here? Yes, I have a genius tip for you, and it is that about punctuation. Punctuation, I have it highlighted here. Punctuation is crucial in poetry because the poet is working with a short amount of lines, not a lot of words, and so punctuation marks say quite a lot in poetry. So it's important that you know the difference between a colon, a semicolon, and a dash or hyphen or double dash. Those are all the same thing. A semicolon gives equal weight to two or more independent clauses. The resulting syntactical balance reinforces parallel ideas and imparts equal importance to the clauses. I think of, when I see a semicolon, I think of an equal sign, because the things that happen before and after have equal weight. The colon, on the other hand, directs reader attention to the words that follow, that come after the colon. It's also used between independent clauses if the second summarizes or explains the first. A colon sets the expectation that important, closely related information will follow, and words after the colon are emphasized. And I usually think of an arrow when I think of this symbol, because it's saying, okay, I'm about to tell you something more important. Here's what it is, right? The attention is directed to the words that follow the colon, all right? The dash marks a sudden change in thought or tone, sets off a brief summary, or sets off a parenthetical part of the sentence. The dash often conveys a casual tone. All right? And we have the dash here. Okay, so that is what I've got for you. Take what you find that's interesting. You're welcome to use some of the things that I listed. If they don't make sense to you, don't use them. And come talk to me, as always, if you need some support on this. Good luck.